that you can't see.
Are we starting? Yes. Do we have an agenda here for the Ladies and gentlemen, we are so glad to have you all with us tonight. This is not only an evening of doing the work of the board, it is also an evening of great celebration. In the course of this most unusual 2021 school year, when we read in the newspaper about many failures in education, this board is very proud of what the accomplishments have been in this school district. The accomplishments of our teachers, our principals, our leaders, the cooperation of our unions with our school district. We are so proud of each and every member of the school community, the parents, the volunteers, beyond parents. Thank each of you. So tonight will be not just a board meeting, it will be a celebration. And we will soon be going outside to honor quite a few people. So get yourself comfy if you're at home. Grab a cup of tea if you're like me. Put your feet up and watch us as we celebrate Fullerton School District. Thank you. To start this meeting off, I want to call up a very special person to do our flag salute. Usually, we've been having students and music videoed into this meeting because students and celebration are what we are all about. We focus on students at Fullerton School District. Tonight, we're going to focus on a teacher. I'm not going to tell you why. You'll learn that later in the evening. But Samantha Martinez teaches pre-K and K special day students. She is a wonderful teacher. I think she's been teaching that grade level about 5 years. And she is the person we really want to honor tonight to lead all of us in the Pledge of the Flag. Samantha? There she is. Come on up. We want you on camera.
Here, right? Okay. So please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight, our first recognition goes to Orangethorpe School for their Civic Learning Award of Merit. And I believe Dr. Lee and are ready to go. So we're going to call Dr. Pletka to start this one. Let me try.
Jeremy.
I'm so sorry.
Jeremy,
I've got us out of
ready.
order. Dr. Pletka, do you have something special?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. There's so much special going on, I get confused. Go ahead.
So today, I'm very excited about sharing with you the successes of our Title I schools in particular. I'm very excited about sharing with you the strength of program and achievement at our Title I schools. And I'm also excited to share with you a special recognition that both Orangethorpe and Richmond received. And so we'll be sharing those recognitions. And we'll be doing that out in the quad area a little bit later.
Dr. Pletka, before you go on, for those in the community who might be tuned in and do not know what a Title I school is, could you give 2 sentences?
It's students that serve students from low-income backgrounds. It's not, it's a larger portionality. So before, though, we get to this, I want to share and recognize our bus drivers. Do you know it is the day of the bus driver?
Oh,
And one of the bus drivers wrote us a poem, and so I'm going to read it. And it's Cindy Huckel. Fullerton School District. We are always safe when we meet by keeping our distance of 6 feet. And we don't think of it as a task keeping each other safe by wearing a mask. Maintaining our children's health is our pledge while increasing their wealth of knowledge. For 20 seconds, we often wash our hands, check our health daily with temperature scans. Being responsible about COVID, we don't take lightly. We clean and disinfect all day and nightly. We know this storm, too, we shall weather. We're responsible team working together. Thanks, Cindy, for the... And actually a big shout out to all our bus drivers that went through this pandemic and brought our kids to school, brought some of our neediest students, some of our special ed students on a daily basis and kept them safe. And so next time you see a bus driver, give them a shout out. We want to acknowledge their good work.
and all the work they did giving food out to our students.
Absolutely. So we've been trying to communicate. I'll say I've been trying to communicate this for the last, well, since I've been superintendent, so I'll say about 15 years. And trying to communicate something that is especially true in our district. Our Title I schools are amazing places to learn that offer very rich programs. As an example, do you know that Nicholas offers an AP computer science class that every year we have students that pass that class? Do you know, as an example, we offer an AP English class at all 3 of our junior highs, including Nicholas? Do you know that one of our, we're very proud, and today's a little bit some shout outs to Richmond, continuing in the speech and debate legacy, has continued to win and place and prepare students each year. And at our Title I schools, we offer speech and debate. You know, our schools also do coding, the arts, stage programs. I think we can all agree that in our schools, both Title I schools and non-Title I schools, we have a plethora of programs and enrichment opportunities. But here's the piece that I have failed to share, explain, communicate. In our schools, our Title I schools, when a kid enters at the beginning of the year and then ends at the end of the year, they learn as much as they do at our non-Title I schools. I know people wonder that. I know when I'm out in the community, sometimes there's hushed tones when they say, well, that school doesn't score as well. And the problem is an accountability system that gives a false narrative. An accountability system that the state acknowledges doesn't actually measure what a student learns during a year in a school. Tonight, with the help of our system, our iReady, which is correlated to the SBAC, our state testing, and the help of WestEd, nationally renowned research company in this country, helped to use data to indeed show that our Title I schools, where amazing things are happening, where we are closing the achievement gap, and we have the data to show that. And tonight, we're going to share that with you. But I have failed so many times. I needed to solicit everybody's help, the entire team's help. And this is an elementary district, and so we have props. We have a racetrack here before you. We are going to simulate what the data shows. The data tells a story. And I was lucky enough to be a research assistant for the late Dr. Joan Bissell. And she, as a research assistant, I had ran all kinds of numbers for her. And at one point, I brought them into her, and we were talking, and she says, what is the story of the data? And I said, what? I held up my number. Here it is. And she said, no. What story does this data tell? And she says, data tells a story. And it's part of our job is to tell that story. And I'm going to try with every ounce of my being to tell a story that will highlight teachers like what you have before you. You have teachers like Ivy and Heather and Tiffany, teachers from Richmond. And while we're going to highlight them, and actually I wish I could have invited all our Title I teachers, they have a history of year after year, their kids growing more than 1 year's growth. In fact, you're going to learn a little bit later about 3 kids. I want you to see their faces. They do it for more than 3 kids. But you need to know that the data is more than that. Today you're going to meet Adon, and you're going to meet Daniel, and you're going to meet Wendy. And these 3 kids, along with a whole bunch of other kids, these 3 teachers impacted their lives and the lives of 6th grade teachers at Richmond. And again, they are the everyman and the every woman of all our Title I schools. And if I could today have recognized all of them, I would have. But I want to tell their story so that you can tell that story, so you can help me tell that story. So Adon in 5th grade, and Daniel and Wendy were a couple grade levels behind. And this year, with the help of our teachers at Richmond, not only their current teachers, but their last year's teachers, they closed the achievement gap for those 3 kids. Those 3 kids worked hard. Those 3 kids had these 2 teachers that helped them. We have Tiffany, because Tiffany also has an incredible history. I don't know if you know this, but these 3 teachers, a couple years ago, we did a study, and in a trimester, these 3 teachers were able to help their students, on average, grow an entire year. An entire year in a trimester. Unfortunately, our accountability system doesn't actually measure what a child learns in a year. And so we're going to show that. And hopefully we'll tell the story, and we'll show that story of data.
As you're looking at your notes for a second, I want to be sure that those at home know that this meeting is being translated both in Korean and in Spanish. And if people go to our website, they can get the link to both Spanish and English simultaneous translation. Thank you.
The second piece I want you to know is that the testing and accountability system is actually detrimental to our Title I schools. Not because, as some people say, well, they just tell them the truth. No, it's detrimental because it creates a false narrative. It doesn't say what happens in our classrooms. It doesn't highlight what excellent teachers we have. And we're going to show that a little bit later. You're going to see the false narrative that's created in our testing system. And what happens, I'll tell you, and there's some passion. And yeah, you know what? I love our teachers. I love all of our teachers, our Title I and our non-Title I. But today is a day to recognize our Title I staff. And I'm very protective. And when I hear people say, you know, our schools, and then in those hushed tones, well, the scores aren't as good. Well, today we'll see and show that their scores are as good and that they're closing that achievement gap. But here's how this works. When you have teachers that work their tails off, and they work hard, and they believe in their kids, and they're there, and by the way, they encourage them and call them and do all of those things, and they're effective teachers, and I'm going to point to our 3 here, but we have a whole army of teachers out there that do this. And what happens then is the testing system doesn't actually acknowledge that their kids grew all this part. And instead what it says is, bad teacher, why didn't you do, your kids didn't perform as much. And then we turn to the kids and we go, bad student, How come you didn't score as much? And what our system does, and when you say that enough, wasn't that long ago, No Child Left Behind published the names of schools, of failing schools. And I'll tell you what happens. Here's what happens. There's a turnover. A turnover, it's 50% more. There's a couple studies. Another one says it's two and a half times more likely for a teacher at a Title I school to leave. And so then people ask, why is there such high turnover? Well, here's an interesting piece to this study. When asked why Title I teachers leave, they say because of the testing and accountability system and the pressure that they feel as a result of it. But I would say it's not the pressure. I would say that it is the demeaning narrative, the false demeaning narrative that they didn't measure up, that they didn't do well enough. And so, unfortunately, our testing system and our accountability system actually contributes to higher turnover. We can just look at the studies to show it. And by the way, ask our teachers. Ask some of our Title I teachers over the years. Ask some of our principals who say, look at these scores, and it doesn't show the growth we've done. So there's something you can do tonight. We're going to share that story. I want you to go out. I want you to help me. And by the way, I want all our non-Title I schools, our staff, to help me. And we're a little competitive here in Fullerton. But today, I am asking our Title I and our non-Title I schools help to tell the story. I am proud of our non-Title I schools. I am proud of the Blue Ribbon schools. I am proud of the Distinguished School. I am proud of our schools that got SBEE, the honor roll. A lot of them were non-Title I. Very proud. But I am as proud of our Title I schools. And today, we have the study to show that our Title I schools learn as much as our non-Title I schools, and a little bit more to close that achievement gap. And by the way, you might be saying, oh, Dr. Pletka, he doesn't actually, this is just his mad idea. Well, the state already acknowledges they don't actually measure a student's growth from when they start a class and when they end it. They already acknowledge that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you that we can measure it. And finally, we have systems in here in Fullerton that can actually measure where a child starts and how much they've learned. And something even better and something unique. We can actually look at a unit of learning, and actually say, like here we have a 100-yard race, and in distance we have, in this case, yards. Well, in our iReady, we can look at scaled score and actually measure and compare what a child learns, and look at across a grade level, across, and say, yes, this child actually learned as much. We call that scaled score growth, and that's something that we have available. I got Sung here. Sung's going to help, and he's actually going to talk a little bit more. We also have something called Percentile that's been around for a long time, and he'll share those pieces. And then lastly, after we do this, testing is an accountability system, and testing needs to continue. It just needs to be reformed. It actually needs to measure student learning, not what students already knew when they came into the school year. But I want you to say testing isn't sufficient. And we'll end with actually the most powerful predictor of student success in college, not GPA, not SATs, but hope. But hope. And Gallup poll measured that in 3 ways. I'll another time share what those are. But I'll tell you this. Look at the principals here. Look at our teachers here. And they give our students hope. You're going to learn about somebody you probably remember. Some of you remember Ruby Perez, one of our nationally ranked speech and debate winners from Nicholas. And she's going to have a special message to share about hope. Hope she had and the hope she's going to help give to our kids. So that's a preview. I am excited about sharing, and hopefully this will be the year that after 15 years of trying to share the data that our Title I schools rock, that our Title I schools are doing great things, and particularly here in Fullerton, our Title I teachers and our Title I principals are moving the mark, and you can get as good, and of course each principal here will argue, and each staff maybe a little better at their site. That's okay, a little friendly competition. But the truth is our Title I schools and our non-Title I schools grow. Our kids grow more than 1 year's growth. More than 1 year's growth. Any of our schools, more than 1 year's growth in a 1 year's time. All right. We got a video for you. We have a simulation for you. So this is the kickoff here of our video.
Two students are at the start line of a 100-yard race, but student 1 starts the race 50 yards behind student 2. The negative 50 yards represents the opportunity gap of low-income students. As a result, student 2 starts closer to the finish line. When entering kindergarten, children from low-income homes generally score about 2 years behind their higher-income peers on language and vocabulary measures. After the race begins, both students run the race at roughly the same speed, with student 1 actually running at a slightly faster rate than student 2. However, student 2, who started closer to the finish line, crosses first and is declared the winner. Student 2 wins the start line of a 100-yard race, but student 1 starts the race 50 yards behind student 2. The negative 50 yards represents the opportunity gap of low-income students. As a result, student 2 starts closer to the finish line. When entering kindergarten, children from low-income homes generally score about 2 years behind their higher-income peers on language and vocabulary measures. After the race begins, both students run the race at roughly the same speed, with student 1 actually running at a slightly faster rate than student 2. However, student 2, who started closer to the finish line, crosses first and is declared the winner. Student 2 wins the award, and the student and their team receive all the accolades and recognition. If we take a closer look at the final results, student 1 ran the race at 8 miles per hour, and student 2 ran the race at 7 miles per hour. Why isn't student 1 being recognized for her slightly faster speed?
Let's say, a higher income, middle class, or higher income student. So they start 2 years behind. Now, we're proud of our students at all our schools, and what you're going to see is they're going to run the race and they're going to finish. They deserve the accolades. They deserve the acknowledgement, and their coach does as well. Yeah. Woohoo! But the student here is also going to run this race, but starting from behind. All right? So again, student 1 represents someone starting 2 grade levels behind. Student 2 is starting at the finish line, at the grade level, expected grade level of kindergarten. All right. Okay, hold on. Where is... There, okay, there we are. There we go.
Oh, you got it. You both. Oh, move, Jenny. Jenny, move.
Okay, they're frozen. Wait. So if you notice here, student 2 completed the race. Should be acknowledged. Should be celebrated. Coach, help their student get to the finish line. But if you notice, that student ran the 100-yard, received and went 1 year's growth. But student 1 also went 1 year's growth. And in fact, in our district, they go a little bit more than 1 grade level. they actually are working towards closing the achievement gap. And here's what we do. Here's what our accountability system does. It says to the, it's really, you should have been there. You worked hard, but you didn't work quite hard enough. And then when we say to our teachers and our principals at our Title I schools, how come you didn't get them all the way to the finish line? And the problem is our system needs to just measure the amount of growth that happened. And the truth is the coach of our Title I school helped our runner run as fast, actually a little faster than the other student. And our system and our accountability system needs to measure where a child starts and how much they grow. And if they grow more than a 1 year's growth, so we'll use our examples, 3 incredible teachers over here that helped their student grow a year and a half. By the way, to grow a year and a half in 1 year, only about the top 15% of teachers in the nation can do that. So they're some of our elite teachers. And so schools that are able to move a student more than 1 grade level is a part of that elite group that is able to move students more than a year's growth. That needs to be acknowledged. And we're going to show you a little bit later. In fact, Sung's going to do that. So we're going to do race 2. So we got one more race, what we're hoping to do. So we want to still acknowledge that there should be there's an accountability system. We are going to measure that kids should grow a 1 year's growth in a 1 year's time. And in fact, here in Fullerton, they grow more than 1 year at all our schools. And if we can help them grow more than 1 year, we can help close that achievement gap. But there's not an arbitrary ending here. For the student, by the way, that's ready to grow more, why would we put a finish line here? Why does our testing system put a finish line? Why can't young Bev here keep going? And I'll say this. Our goal is not simply to graduate kids. Our goal is simply not to get kids in college or to graduate kids from college. Every parent here knows this, by the way. I have 6 kids. My goal was not to have them graduate high school alone. It was not simply to get them to graduate college, but it was to get them out of my basement. I don't have a basement, but out of the homes into a job that they love, that they are contributing, that they are independent, off the family payroll, not on a cell phone. Every parent's dream is for their child to be in a career and a position that they love, making a difference, contributing to society, and independent. So there is no finish line at the end of kindergarten here. It's just a lifetime journey. And so our teachers know this. In fact, our teachers help kids prepare for that lifetime journey. And so this is what it might look like. We still want to make sure kids grow 1 year in 1 year's time or more here in Fullerton. But how about if it looked like, we'll start the race. We'll start the race.
Racers, take your mark. Ready, set, go!
Go, go, go.
You identified your passion through the rhyme.
Keep going. Keep coming. Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh my God, that's wonderful. Yes. Keep
All right, it's a
going,
little
Beth.
campy, but that's all right. We got this. We got this. Oh, there's more. There's more.
Good job, coaches.
So what if in this accountability system we still measured and we still wanted students to grow more than a year or more? We wanted to close that achievement gap. But what if we just had indicators, benchmarks, places along the moment where a coach, the teacher, the school checks in with the students, acknowledges and nurtures their growth, and along the way celebrates it, helps guide them, maybe set new goals, and then along the way, a little bit further along, they check in with that student, acknowledge, nurture. And here's an interesting piece. If we do that, there's recently a study that came out that said if we have a caring teacher, and that caring teacher knows something about a child and nurtures that talent in them and allows them to do those things that they're best at, if a teacher knows and cares and supports and guides a child, a couple things. Not only are they more engaged and more hopeful, but actually they're more engaged in their career later on. And here's an interesting thing. They're actually happier. They actually have a greater sense of well-being. And so while test scores are an accountability measure, and while they help hold us all accountable, it's not sufficient. And every parent here knows, every parent who have had their kid go through the school system, they're not happy just when they graduate, but when they are independently doing the thing they love, making a difference in this world. And if we can begin that journey and help guide and support them, our kids will not only learn more, not only graduate college at a higher rate, not only score higher, but also they'll be happier people. And so this is part of why we need to relook at what we're asking and acknowledge along the way our good folks that help guide our kids. And I would like to ask and say we have our achievement data. But before we do that, again, I want to acknowledge every one of our Title I educators and staff members, and how about a big round of applause for everybody.
So, as you, I'll actually wait. So as you've had a chance to see the analogy between running a race and the reality of how schools are acknowledged and celebrated in this accountability race that the state has created, we did, as Dr. Bob had mentioned, we did partner with West Ed to perform an evaluation of our schools to make meaning of our data and to redefine how we measure academic success in a more meaningful way. And you should all have a copy of the presentation slides as well. But before we go into the data, I did want to provide some context into the data sets that were analyzed by West Ed. So back when No Child Left Behind was enacted, our state's accountability system valued proficiency. So it created this system that focused on students who were, I don't know if you remember this term, but were on the bubble, close to being proficient. And so the system ignored those students who were already proficient to start off, as well as those who are far below basic, since it would have been difficult to get the students to proficiency by the end of the year. And so we ended up focusing a lot of our attention on these bubble students. So the state, as Dr. Bob had mentioned, recognized the flaw in their system and have slowly made attempts to reward growth over time. So although the California School Dashboard replaced No Child Left Behind's AYP reports and includes some acknowledgments of growth, it still compares the academic achievement of students at a school from one year to the next, even though it's not exactly the same group of students, because you do have new third graders coming in. You also have sixth graders that are exiting, as well as eighth graders that are exiting at the school level. It takes them out of that data. So therefore, we still do not have a true student growth comparison system. So as we compare how to determine what successful schools and students look like from an accessibility and accountability perspective, we should consider these factors that you see there. How many topics or skills did a student learn and master in 1 year? Are the expectations for students consistent with national norms? Are students showing growth over time? So in other words, what's a student's rate of learning, and how can we determine and measure 1 year of growth? So through these factors, we can identify schools with rates of learning that is equivalent to or exceeds 1 year of growth and celebrate that success. So the way that we can do that is by looking at our iReady data, and that'll help us determine what 1 year of learning looks like. We can analyze 2 data sets from iReady to help us answer this question. So the first is through percentile scores. And I think percentile scores are pretty well known and used in many fields. For example, when a parent takes their child for an annual checkup, the doctor will check the child's height and calculate their percentile rank. So you'll say that your child is in the 60th percentile or the 70th percentile. Then the following year, if the student's percentile ranking in height is the same as last year, so if they were in the 60th percentile last year, and if they're in the 60th percentile this year, we would say that the child grew in 1 year what you would typically expect for that child of that age. So in the same way, if a student's percentile score in iReady is same over time, so from diagnostic 1 to diagnostic 2 to diagnostic 3, if that percentile score stays exactly the same, that's what you would have expected a student at that grade level typically to achieve. So in other words, we would say that the student's learning at the rate typical of a student at that grade level. So the student has learned the number of topics or standards expected within that school year. So one way we can look at the data is through percentile scores. From diagnostic 1 to diagnostic 2 to diagnostic 3, if you see the percentile scores stay the same, that's typically what we would expect. If you see percentile scores go up, that means that student's rate of learning is actually higher than what you would typically expect for that student. So another way to measure 1 year of learning is through the progress made from the first diagnostic to the test looking at scaled scores. So after a student takes the first iReady test, which we call the baseline data, the system will determine a goal for that student to achieve by the end of the year. So depending on how that student scored in that first test, the system will basically let the student know what their growth target is for that year. So for example, let's say that a student's growth target goal might be 20 points in the year. So if the student increases their scaled score by 20 points by the end of the year, then what we would say is that they've made 100% progress towards their goal. Or in other words, we would say that the student has learned the number of topics or standards expected within that school year. If we solely look and use our state's accountability system to evaluate schools, this question that you see up there on the slide becomes a fair question to ask. Isn't it more difficult for our high-achieving students to show growth, right? If we are just using the state accountability system. So if you're assessing the same set of skills and standards on a test, similar to what we do for SBAC, those that score high initially, it would be pretty difficult for them to show growth. Because if they've already learned all the standards for that grade level, let's say halfway through the year or even at the beginning of the year, there's really not much more that they can show on a test that only assesses that one specific grade level. But with iReady being an adaptive test, it measures the amount of learning a student gained in one year, and it doesn't put a ceiling on our high achievers. So although students of different achievement levels may not have learned the same set of skills or standards in a year, we can say that the system is sophisticated enough to determine the amount of learning that took place regardless of the student's starting achievement level. And you saw that through the demonstration here in the race. So with all that background and context that was just shared with you, we partnered with WestEd and commissioned them to analyze our iReady data, specifically looking at percentile scores and scaled score progress to compare the amount of learning for our Title I students as well as our non-Title I students. So this that you see here is an analysis of the average percentile scores in reading and math. You can see that although there is a discrepancy in the baseline data of Diagnostic 1, percentile scores for non-Title I schools to Title I schools, you can see that the rate of learning is higher, slightly higher for Title I schools. So this can be shown in the last row of that table there. So there's a couple of statements that could be made just by looking at that last row. So one that you can notice is that all of those scores that you see there, the plus 1.6, the plus 2.9 for reading, the plus 1.3 and the plus 3.2 for math, those represent increases in percentile scores. And as I had mentioned before, if the percentile score stayed exactly the same, that's what you would typically expect in terms of the amount of growth that the student would make from one test to the next test. But the fact that you see positive numbers for both of our Title I schools as well as our non-Title I schools, that just demonstrates that students in general, district-wide, their rate of learning is at a faster rate than what you would typically expect nationally. So the second piece that you can take a look at is that since the change is higher for Title I schools, you can see that slight higher rate there, the plus 1.6 for non-Title I schools versus the plus 2.9 for Title I schools for reading. What that means is that we are closing the achievement gap, because at the Title I schools, you're seeing that rate of learning that's a little bit higher than our non-Title I schools in general. So the second way that we can look at our data is through our scale score growth. And so as we look at progress made on our typical growth target, you can see that the percentage of students reaching their target goal is basically the same for Title I students and non-Title I students. So that's 63.3% as well as our 63.5% in reading, the 60.2% and the 60.2% in math. So this means that the amount of learning that occurred for both Title I and non-Title I students is about the same between Diagnostic 1 and Diagnostic 2. And we chose to look at last year's data, the 2019-20 data, right before the pandemic hit and we had the school closures, because we knew that that allowed us to analyze the data where the testing administration was consistent through all the schools. So far, we've really only talked about how test scores weigh in on the success or quality of a school. But we all know that there's so much more that speaks to the quality of education a student receives at a school. So we wanted to share with you a few facts that our Title I principals shared with us that you may not have been aware of. Oops. So did you know that Commonwealth Elementary is a part of the No Excuses University Network? Each classroom adopts a college for the year and learns the skills needed to attend college and become a future college graduate. Also, over 60% of our students speak 2 languages. For Maple, did you know that all 4th, 5th, and 6th graders attend a 3-day immersive science field trips to Catalina Island Marine Institute and Astro Camp for free as part of our Maple Experiences program? For Nicholas, did you know that every year students create working apps based on community and global needs? This year, one of Nicholas's past app creators who created the Bully Buster app just received a scholarship to attend William Penn University in the fall. Nicholas offers students the opportunity to take the AP Computer Science A and AP English Language and Composition exams. Did you know that Orangethorpe is home to a unique multidisciplinary program called Project Curiosity, the Art of Science of Nature? School-wide, our students use art and science as a lens for examining nature, advocating for environmental issues, engaging in conservatism, conservationism, and solving real-world problems. Did you know that students in Pact Drive's computer science pathways are given the opportunity to learn coding, get hands-on experience with drones and robotics, and participate in design thinking activities that promote app development? Did you know that Raymond is FSD's inaugural Spanish-English dual language academy school with a STEAM focus? This year, Raymond is partnering with Wilshire Avenue Church to build a student-led STEM sensory garden that will purposefully help support language development, cognitive growth, fine and gross motor skills, problem-solving skills, and social interaction. Did you know that Raymond has a strong community partnership with the Anaheim Ducks, who helped celebrate their 60th anniversary by installing a new regulation hockey rink, painting a reading mural, planting trees, upgrading our playground and school garden, and most importantly, inspiring students to dream big. Students at Richmond also have the opportunity to expand their learning, connect with nature, build community, and participate in project-based learning in our newly renovated butterfly garden. Did you know that Valencia Park is an Apple Distinguished School and that the teachers have shared their expertise by presenting at national and international education conferences? Tour groups have come from as far as Hawaii, New Zealand, and China to learn from the staff and see student engagement in action. And did you know that every class in Woodcrest in grades kinder through 6th grade receive weekly lessons in social justice, helping our students become more empathetic, inclusive members of society? And so a school that we would like to highlight is Richmond Elementary. This slide shows data that reflects the successful year that Richmond has experienced so far. In both subject areas, percentile scores increased overall and in all major subgroups, as well as all grade levels except for one in math. In addition, 6th grade percentile scores grew by 9 points in both subjects. So these positive results indicate that Richmond students are learning and closing the achievement gap.
I want to point out for those watching or having translation that SPED means special education students, so that you can see how impressive those numbers are.
Thank you. And now Kristen Holm, the principal of Richmond Elementary, will share the hard work of her students and staff that contributed to these scores, as well as amazing programs that they offer at our school. You want to push the down button?
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Sugarman, board members, Dr. Pleka, Cabinet, and my colleagues and awesome friends, principal friends, and teachers, and community members. I'm really honored to be able to share our story at Richmond and how it all started and where we're at and how far we've come. We're really grateful to have been selected by the Parenting OC magazine as the best public school in Orange County for 2020. So we'll give a shout out to the Richmond community. We couldn't have done it with all of the support we received from the district, from the school board, from the teachers, and from the parents. And when we were sitting together at the end of last year in our homes with talking about starting the year with distance learning, we really wanted to remember what we had started together about 3 or 4 years ago, where we wanted to remain strong, connected to our students. And we were going back and forth, what can we come up with? And we decided to come up with our connection is strong. So every decision that we made during this year, during the pandemic, we went back to our vision to connect and to be strong with that connection with our students. So I'm here to share with that today. So just a little glimpse about Richmond. We are a Coatson school. We are also a GATE identified school for the district. We have an award-winning STEAM program, which is unfortunately closed right now during the pandemic, but we are looking forward to reopening it in the fall, not only for our upper grades, but we also have a Reggio-inspired primary STEAM lab. We also have partnerships that we value with our after-school program that provides a safe place for our students to be after school, and they also serve dinner. They provide STEAM activities, and they also help with homework. We also have a partnership with the Anaheim Ducks and St. Jude and Cal State Fullerton. We have a positive and collaborative school community, and we offer art, theater, music, robotics, PE, speech and debate, congressional apps challenge, esports, and much, much more for our students. So our students have lots of access to extracurricular activities. At Richmond, we hold balanced literacy very high, and we start it in TK, right when they walk through our front door. If their first experience is in TK, Writer's Workshop begins. If their first experience with us is in kindergarten, we start them right away with Readers and Writers Workshop. We want to start to build that reading community. We also have guided reading in our classrooms. We do picture book for a day. I can tell you right now, you're never too old to enjoy a picture book. You can walk into Ivy Nino Franco's classroom, and I sit down, and I'm in awe, just like the students are when she reads a picture book. We also incorporate junior grade books into our lessons. Junior grade books is a really great opportunity for students to read a book and read a story and really interpret it different ways. There is no wrong answer. And it really is a great opportunity if you ever want to visit Richmond for a junior grade book session, because students will sit there and have an opinion about a story, but after talking with a friend, their opinion might change, or their opinion might get stronger. So it really gives students ownership when they read, and they get to decide which way they want the story to go. We also have technology, and something else that we've started in the last 3 years is 3rd through 6th grade, they do novel studies, which means every student at that grade level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, they read 4 to 6 novels a year. Most Title I students don't have access to a public library. They're afraid, they're not sure about getting a library card, so we want to put as many books in the child's hand as possible. So for example, in 6th grade, our 6th graders read Harry Potter. They each get a copy of the Harry Potter book. They can read it, they can write in it, and the interesting part and the best part of all is they can read it over and over, and if that book gets lost in their house, we love that. That's fabulous. And what's even better is once a child has moved from 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, they can always talk to the students in 4th grade. So for example, I have 5th graders who just got done reading Esperanza Rising, and then there are students in 4th grade who are reading City of Ember or Island of Blue Dolphins, and on the playground you hear them talking about books. Like, oh my gosh, you're reading Island of Blue Dolphins? I remember that. Gee, have you gotten to this part? No, don't tell me. So it really creates this reading and building a reading life. And I have to tell you, we are very intentional on picking books at Richmond. We want to make sure that the kids can see themselves in the books. And this is just a small sample of books that we have and novels that we're using with our students. And if you look in the far right-hand corner, you're going to see our 3 6th grade teachers who took it another step further. And they came dressed as Harry Potter. You would have thought BTS was on the campus when they showed up. They were so excited, and students dressed up like Harry Potter as well. We also have written grants to get help to build our school library. We bought bookshelves, and we really make sure, again, we're intentional with providing diverse books for our school library. And some of you might have heard the saying, providing windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors and beyond. It's so powerful. Again, come visit our library. When a student takes a book off the shelf and looks at it, and then she said to me, I said, what's up with that book? She goes, oh, it's called America. I go, oh, and I said, why'd you pick that book? She goes, look, Miss Holm, it's about a girl from Mexico who doesn't like her name and she wishes her name was more American. And she goes, that's me. She goes, I want to change my name. And then after reading it, I went up to her and she goes, I never want to change my name. And it's just that power of holding a book and really seeing yourself in a book is just a beautiful thing. Not only do we do Readers and Writers Workshop, we also look at the way we teach math. Title I students, like you saw in the race, sometimes, you know, when you teach rounding in September, it's just one day of teaching rounding. But our Title I students and all students really need that spiraling of that standard over and over. So we brought in Simple Solutions. It's where we can spiral the math standard over and over. So they're not just doing rounding on day 1, they're doing it on day 2, all the way through May. And that really helps establish the math foundation. And just like Dr. Pleka said, for those students that are high achieving in math, we have the ALEX program for 5th and 6th graders. And even some of our 4th grade GATE students have the ALEX program. In 1st through 4th grade, we started incorporating Eureka Math, where we can dive deeper into the math. So it's not just 3 times 4 or doing equations. There's always one right answer. We know that to a math problem. But what we do with the Eureka and with CGI is there more than one way to get there. And so that really helps our students because our students come from different backgrounds. We have a girl right now from Brazil who speaks Portuguese, but she is still able to solve the math problems by drawing pictures and getting there the way she knows how. This is just a sample of diving deep into the curriculum. Our classes in 3rd through 6th grade all have the depth and complexity icons. We are a GATE designated school, but all of our classrooms and teachers are trained in GATE, so our students are able to dive deep using these icons every single day. We are 21st century learners. We are an iPad program, 1-to-1, TK to 6th grade. Again, this is a glimpse into our STEAM lab that unfortunately is closed due to the pandemic, and we're hoping to reopen it very soon. We do lots of project-based learning, critical thinking, and lots of collaboration. We offer enrichment programs at Richmond, robotics, Birdseed website. We do hopscotch, coding, congressional app, Genius Hour, video production with green screen, and 3D printing. We have lots of things to offer. But like I started, we couldn't do it without our partnerships. Our PTA has been absolutely amazing during this pandemic to help us with our connection being strong. The Anaheim Ducks, we're forever grateful to them for really inspiring our students to dream big. We have lots of future hockey players at our school. Our speech and debate team, our fabulous coach, Mrs. Ivy Nito Franco, right here, she has really helped our students build that confidence and self-esteem. When you look at our Title I students, they would never have this opportunity if it wasn't for Fullerton School District to bring it into our schools and have that opportunity to really shine. And there are some students that want to be in theater, and they wouldn't have that opportunity if it wasn't for Fullerton School District and bringing in the stage program. That's something that a lot of our students miss, and we're looking forward to bringing back in the fall. Something I'd like to share at Richmond that we started 2 years ago, we started a Rising Star mentoring program. We selected 10 students in 5th grade to work with Dr. Pleca's office, and they were mentors to students. And I have to tell you, each one of these students, they've made a difference in their lives. The teachers, the PTA, all of the partnerships we have. The first child, Adon, he came into 5th grade 2 years below grade level, and he just started reading, but his love was soccer. And luckily for him, he ended up in Mrs. Ivy Nito Franco's class. And you will look at him now, and when you walk in, he's like, I've got a book challenge for you. And I said, Adon, you know, what's going on? He's like, and Mrs. Nito Franco says, I just keep feeding him books, and he eats them all. And so he'll tell you himself, he'll be out in the quad in a little bit, I stopped playing video games and started reading books. And then you say, why? And he will tell you that everybody at Richmond is his family. And he knows that everybody at Richmond cares about him. And that connection he really feels. Same with Wendy. Wendy is your typical EL learner. She came into kindergarten 2 years below, and every year she has been making gains and making gains. And then she became a part of our mentor program. And she also just kept reading and working so hard. And now she is a 6th grade reader. She is on grade level, and she's almost a 7th grade reader. She's doing amazing things. And then there's Daniel. Daniel's he's got a lot of spunk. He's a really great kid. He really tries hard. He attends after-school tutoring the last 3 years. He has not missed a day of that after-school tutoring. He attends the after-school program. He works so hard, and he's worked so hard, he is now at grade level. And that's just a sample of our kids that are working really hard at Richmond every day. This is our Richmond teacher staff. This is last year's picture. Unfortunately, we're not able to get close and personal this year, but I wanted to share that it's not only the teachers and staff we have this year, it's teachers and staff we've had in the past as well. The connection and the family atmosphere we have at Richmond, we all care about one another, and we all believe that students can learn. So at Richmond, it's more than a school. We're a family. We're a Richmond family, and I'm their proud principal, and I'm so grateful that I got to share a story tonight. Thank you.
So just kind of to close up this piece, I hope you sense I have a lot of passion about this, and I have a lot of passion because I am incredibly proud of our Title I teachers. I am incredibly proud of our staff, every secretary, every bus driver, every custodian, and I am incredibly proud of our assistant principals and principals. And I'm proud, first of all, I'm just proud because they're amazing people. And in fact, when people come say, hey, what about that school? I'm like, I want to take you to that school. I want to show you what they do. I want to show you the lives they change. And we wanted to highlight some schools. We wanted to highlight some teachers. We wanted to highlight some students. Because sometimes in the data, when we do these presentations, what gets lost is everybody here is changing the lives of our students at incredible rates. And yes, it is because they are incredible teachers in raising student achievement and helping kids close the achievement gap. But I think what Ms. Holmes said, it's a family. And I'll go back to our study that I started with. You want to know the best predictor of student success? Not GPA, not SAT scores. The best predictor of student success is hope. And hope starts with a principal and a teacher and a custodian who looks at a child and sees in them something they don't yet see and nurtures that and loves that child And when they do that, they give them the promise of a new future, of an opportunity to make a difference in this world and have an impact on each other, and one day, maybe the next man or woman to land on Mars.
Yeah.
And it all begins with our teachers here. And I don't know if I was successful, but one thing I told everybody when we were preparing, I don't know if this year I'll be any more successful in showing the community with all our studies and all our events that our Title I schools, students learn as much as any other school. But I hope this. I hope every Title I teacher, and I hope every Title I principal and assistant principal and custodian and secretary and bus driver know that I very much not only value you, but know the great work that you are doing. And you are so important to me. And sometimes it does make me angry that sometimes I feel like only if some of us here in this room and our board knows it and our community knows it. But I want you to know that I know it. I know what you've done. I know you've made a difference. And while tonight we highlighted Richmond and we highlighted these three teachers who have done, by the way, year after year, a year and a half's growth or more, but they represent every teacher at Richmond, and they represent every Title I school, they represent every Title I teacher, and they represent every Title I principal. And when you see the kids, it's not just data. It's not just 1.3%. Don is a kid that means a lot to me. We've done a lot of mentoring, and he just lost his mom. And that Richmond staff, they loved on him, and they took care of him, and they were there for him. And that's what we have. We have an incredible community. So help me, everybody here, help me tell the narrative. Help me tell the story. And for one day, again, I know we're a competitive group. But for one day, I want our Title I schools and our non-Title I schools, our staff, to come together and support each other and to know that we are proud of every one of our schools and of the work they're doing. And I can't wait for the celebration to begin. Dream catchers, you're going to meet some of the other kids making an impact on this world. And they are an amazing, hopeful group. And so you're going to hear more about it. I'm going to turn this over to Pablo, who's going to share a little bit of a story of someone you all know. Some of you were her teachers, and some of you were her principals. Ruby Perez. She's a force to be reckoned.
Good evening, Board President Sugarman, Board of Trustees, Executive Cabinet, and all FSD family and friends. The one thing that I do miss about being in the classroom is there's two things, and that's the energy of the school, which is the students, and the mentorship that I was able to provide for them on a daily basis. And with those two things, with Dreamcatcher over the last 3 years, we've been able to follow some students, and we have rock star students in this district at all our schools. And Ruby Perez is just one of those rock star students. She's in 9th grade right now, and she does have a message for us.
Hello everyone, I'm Ruby Perez Ortega. I am in 9th grade and I was a former Dreamcatcher. I attended Orchard Elementary and Nicholas Junior High, and I just had a really great time attending those schools because they had a good balance of science, subjects and more liberal arts. What piqued my interest in middle school was how I was able to join speech and debate and really talked about things I believed in. For example, talking about environmental issues for my first speech and debate was really groundbreaking for me, because I realized that I did have a voice and I was able to change minds and change hearts and hopefully change the future for better. I continue to be involved in speech and debate, and I have the amazing chance to go to nationals as an alternate and still compete. So I'm very excited for the new chance to make my name known. I just want to say congratulations to the new dream catchers. I know you'd really deserve this award, and I just want to let you know that your voice is very strong, and the fact that you have gotten this far makes it known that you are strong individuals, smart individuals, and you can do anything you put your heart to. And it doesn't matter if you change courses in life, but with this, we all know that you are off to a good path.
Let's give her a hand, even though she's not here. And so that's one of our last year's dream catchers, and I just visited the quad a little bit ago, and I know you guys can hear me if you're out there. They are listening to us. So we're going to come out and celebrate you shortly, but we have a small preview for this year's class of 2021 dream catchers.
We are not just dreaming. We are doing. We are the Fullerton School District Dreamcatchers. Reshaping dreams into realities through hard work, determination, and passion. We are creating change today for a better tomorrow.
All right. So I think with that, we'll be moving out to the quad. Yes? Yes.
Thank you. Ruby Perez also was on the Fullerton Education Foundation Board and did a fabulous job, as she does with everything. Thank you. Shall we move? Janny and Bev, you need a minute? Yeah. Or two? I need the ladies. Take everything you need. Janny, make sure you take everything you need. Take